So the theme of the Nines this year is on game changers. And I'm not sure if this was quite revelatory to you, but it certainly was to me. And seeing it in black and white in the New York Times on August the 1st, 2010, and the article was about taking a break from the Lord's work, having to do with clergy burnout and stress. And in the first few sentences of the article, it says that the findings have surfaced with ominous regularity over the last few years and with little notice. And here's what struck me. Members of the clergy now suffer from obesity, hypertension, and depression at rates higher than most Americans. In the last decade, their use of antidepressants has risen, while their life expectancy has fallen. Many would change jobs if they could. Now that's kind of sobering. And this is probably not why most of us got into ministry, was to do damage to our bodies and to our minds, our souls. And really the most important thing is to do damage to our families, because that's invariably what happens, because they're the closest to us in the midst of strife, whether we're dealing with difficulties in a local church, just the stuff that comes with everyday ministry, the road bumps that come along the way. And if not taken care of, can lead to profound stress, profound burnout, flame out, toasting, and a lot of stories I think we all know about are people who started in the ministry, great guns, they went to seminary, but now they're the most educated real estate agents out there, or the most educated salespeople, or fill in the blank. One of the things that I found to be really helpful, and God has allowed me to be able to minister in these certain ways, is encouraging those of us who are involved in pastoral ministry to make sure that we are caring for ourselves, because we ourselves are caregivers spiritually. We deal with people in their most emotional times, whether they're good emotional times like weddings and baptisms, but also in the low moments, dealing with people in times of death, loss, tragedy, and all of these things add up. And once we get to that point of severe burnout, we get to the point that only the lows in our ministries register. We can't really appreciate the good things that God is doing, the highs that God has allowed for us to experience, whether it be salvations, church growth, increased number of baptisms, all those things that we see as metrics in the kingdom of God. We can't even see those good things, which are very obvious, very apparent, because we're so focused on the lows. And that's when you know that the real burnout has happened, is you can only see the lows. You can't even see the obvious high points that God has opened the door for you. Now, as a caregiver, as a pastor, and I think all of us would be agreed on this, is that we give people permission to do all kinds of things. Whether they're in a moment of grieving, we tell them, it's okay, you can grieve. Take your time. Mourn that loved one, and take your time. We tell people it's okay to be tired, or it's okay to be exhausted, it's okay to be weary, you've done a lot. But very rarely do we have people in our own lives who can say that to us. It's okay to grieve because you suffered a loss in your ministry or in your personal life. It's okay to be exhausted, it's okay to be tired, it's okay to be weary. Very few of us have those kinds of safeguards in place where someone can give us permission to feel a certain way, or to be able to go through a certain difficulty, and to be able to do it in a way that honors God and still keeps us in the lane that God has called us to be as pastors or ministry leaders. So here's the game changer for me, is to have regular intervals of rest, of recreation, and also to have these nets of grace, really, which are accountability structures, whether you're in a denomination and you have these layers of accountability. But if you don't have that benefit, is to seek out other pastors, preferably having kind of a two-tier system. One tier is an elder brother or sister in the Lord who can tell you, I dealt with this very same thing a few years back, and here's how I dealt with it. So that'd be the first tier, is have an elder brother or an elder sister in the Lord who can walk you through that. But then the other tier is also to have people who are contemporaries, people who are outside of your current ministry setup, who can speak into your life as a colleague and to be able to pray with you and to encourage you to have times set aside for rest with your family, recreation with your friends or with a hobby or whatever fills your tank, but to make sure that someone is holding you accountable, not necessarily a supervisor in ministry, but more of a peer or a colleague, and you can do this in a way that is mutual, and you're going to get a lot out of it. So I can speak to you out of experience out of that. So I hope that this has been an encouragement to you. This has been a game changer for me in the last few years of my ministry, and I hope it's a blessing to you where you are today.